My phone screen casts an eerie blue glow across my face at 2:17 a.m. I squint at the barrage of text messages lighting up my otherwise dark Chicago apartment. May, please call us. It's urgent. May, where are you? This is an emergency. Call now. My hands shake as I scroll through the increasingly frantic messages from my parents. The contrast between my meticulously organized condo, all clean lines and carefully chosen furniture, and the chaotic digital panic unfolding on my screen feels jarring. I've worked too hard for this life, this sanctuary away from their drama. Then it appears, a news alert with Tyler's mugshot. My stomach drops. My golden boy brother stares back at me with bloodshot eyes and that familiar half-smirk that always worked on our parents. The smirk that said he knew he'd be rescued, no matter what. The phone rings, vibrating against my palm. I answer before I can talk myself out of it. May, please, you have to help him. Mom's voice breaks through, high-pitched and frantic. What's happening? I ask, though I already know. Dad's voice cuts in, having grabbed the phone. Tyler's been arrested. They're saying he stole millions from investors. It's all lies, of course. A misunderstanding. I stand and walk to my window, looking out at Chicago's glittering skyline. What exactly is he charged with? Wire fraud, embezzlement. They're claiming $2.5 million. His voice trembles in a way I've never heard before. The FBI was involved, May. You're a lawyer, you can fix this. Mom sobs in the background. I press my forehead against the cool glass. I'm a corporate finance attorney, not a criminal defense lawyer. But you know people, Dad insists. You have connections. This is your brother we're talking about. My brother. The same brother they moved heaven and earth for while I scraped by. The memory rises unbidden. 6 months ago, standing in this same spot, phone pressed to my ear, voice steady despite my desperation. The insurance won't cover all the water damage. I had explained to them. I need somewhere to stay while they repair the condo. Just a loan until the claim processes. $12,000 would cover temporary housing. I had explained to them dollars would cover temporary housing. Mom's voice had been cool, detached. We'd love to help, but we just can't right now. You understand. And later, her parting shot. If you had focused on being a wife instead of a lawyer, you wouldn't be dealing with this alone. Caleb would have handled it. As if my ex-husband's affair with my colleague was somehow my fault for working too hard. I move to my laptop, open Facebook. The evidence stares back at me. Photos of Mom and Dad in Florida with Tyler. The timestamp, 2 days after they claimed they couldn't help me. Their smiling faces on a chartered fishing boat. The caption, celebrating Tyler's new business venture. The $60,000 they gave him for his bar. The same bar that apparently fronted his fraud scheme. I close the laptop with a quiet click. For 33 years, I've watched them drop everything for Tyler while I stood in the shadows. The state piano competition they missed for his baseball game. My law school graduation they left early because Tyler had a situation. Every achievement dismissed, every need minimized. May, are you still there? Every? Dad's voice cuts through my thoughts. I pace my apartment, attorney brain calculating. Wire fraud, $2.5 million. Federal charges. Potential sentences. I'll come tomorrow. I hear myself say. Oh, thank God, Mom breathes. We knew you'd help. Tyler always said you'd come through if things got bad. Oh. The rage bubbles up, surprising me with its intensity. They haven't asked about my life, my work, whether I can even leave. Just the expectation that I'll drop everything again for the golden sun. I haven't said I'll help yet. I clarify, my voice cool. I said I'll come. We'll discuss options when I get there. But that's all I can promise right now. I end the call before they can protest. Dawn breaks as I close my suitcase, my face set with resolve. The woman in the mirror looks different, somehow still me, but with something harder in her eyes. I've spent my life trying to earn a fraction of the love they freely gave Tyler. No more. I'll go to Hartford, but this time, it will be on my terms. If they want my help, they'll have to face some uncomfortable truths. Starting with the fact that their golden son isn't just tarnished, he's criminal. And I'm done being the afterthought. The next morning, my childhood home in Hartford looms before me like a museum dedicated to Tyler Evans. I stand frozen in the entryway, surrounded by a gallery of his life. Baseball trophies gleam from every shelf. Photos chronicle his progression from chubby-cheeked toddler to handsome young entrepreneur. Conspicuously absent? Evidence I ever existed. May, thank God you're here. Mom rushes toward me, arms outstretched, but stops short of an actual embrace. Her eyes are red-rimmed, makeup-free. Dad hovers behind her, looking a decade older than when I last saw him. I set my suitcase down with a deliberate thud. Where are the case documents? In the dining room, Dad says. But first, we need to tell you what we've done. The dining room table holds the answer papers spread across its oak surface like a crime scene. Bank statements, court filings. A property deed with a bright yellow post-it note. For Tyler's bail. You put up the house? My voice sounds distant, even to my own ears. Mom wrings her hands. $600,000. The judge set bail this morning. Jesus Christ. I drop into a chair, scanning documents with growing disbelief. Wire transfers, shell companies, investor lists. The money trail is painfully obvious. Your brother made some poor decisions, Dad says, but he's not a criminal. I hold up a bank statement. This shows systematic fraud over 18 months. That's not a poor decision, that's a felony. He was desperate, Mom whispers. His business was failing. A notation catches my eye. A transfer from my parents' account to Tyler's bar 4 months ago. Not the $60,000 I'd known about. An additional $45,000. You knew. I look up sharply. You knew something was wrong with his finances months ago. The guilty exchange of glances between them confirms everything. I push back from the table and walk to the living room, drawn by muscle memory to the mantel. My law school graduation photo is missing from its usual spot. In its place sits a framed article about Tyler's bar opening. We needed to make room for newer photos, Mom explains, appearing behind me. My phone buzzes. Lucas? I step onto the front porch for privacy. How bad is it? He asks, his voice a balm after hours of family tension. They used their house for bail. They knew about financial problems months ago and said nothing, and apparently I've been erased from the family history. I'm sorry, May. His voice carries the weight of understanding without pity. Remember your boundaries. You don't owe them a rescue. I know. I watch a neighbor walking a dog across the street. The normalcy feels surreal. How's your surgery schedule? Booked solid. But I can fly out this weekend if you need me. Unlike my parents, Lucas never makes me ask twice. I'll let you know. Love you. Love you too. Stay strong. I make another call to Victoria Chen, my mentor at the firm. Her advice is characteristically direct. Don't represent him. Recommend a criminal attorney. Keep professional distance. Back inside, I find my parents huddled at the kitchen counter, whispering. They straighten when they see me, like guilty teenagers. The prosecutor called, Dad says. Tyler's first hearing is Tuesday. If Tyler violates bail conditions, you lose the house, I say, leaning against the doorframe. You understand that? Mom nods miserably. We had no choice. What about your retirement savings? Dad looks away. Most of it went to his previous ventures. The magnitude of their financial sacrifice for Tyler crashes over me. Decades of favoritism have left them vulnerable to his manipulation. I think of my own careful financial planning, the emergency fund I built after they refused to help me. The irony burns. My phone chimes with a text from the county prosecutor's office, confirming tomorrow's jail visit. I stand taller, chin raised. I've made some decisions. Their faces lift with hope so naked it's almost painful. I'll recommend a good criminal defense attorney. I won't give you money, and we all, including Tyler, will attend family therapy. Mom's expression crumples. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me that compares to what you've done for Tyler? The question hangs in the air like smoke. Dad's face flushes with anger, then drains to resignation. We don't have much choice, do we? You always have choices. You've just made bad ones. I turn toward the stairs. I need to prepare for tomorrow's jail visit. May, Dad calls after me. He's still your brother. I pause, not turning around. Yes, he is. And that's the only reason I'm here. In my childhood bedroom, preserved like a time capsule from high school, I spread my notes across the twin bed. The prosecutorial strategy is clear, the evidence substantial. The best outcome for Tyler will be a plea deal, but it will still mean prison time. I close my notepad and stare at the ceiling, the same ceiling I'd gazed at as a teenager, planning my escape from Tyler's shadow. The anger I've carried for decades has crystallized into something harder, cleaner. Tomorrow, I'll face my golden brother in his tarnished reality. And for the first time in our lives, I'll be the one holding all the cards. The next day, after I met the prosecutor, I went to jail to visit my brother. The county jail visiting room assaults my senses before I even sit down. The walls are institutional beige, pockmarked with decades of scuffs and mysterious stains. Overhead fluorescent lights buzz with an irritating persistence, casting everyone in a sickly pallor that makes even the guards look unwell. I adjust my position on the metal chair, its coldness seeping through my skirt despite the September heat outside. A security door clangs open at the far end of the row of visitation cubicles. The sound echoes through the cavernous space, mingling with the distant shouts of inmates and the constant jingle of keys. The correctional officer nods toward me, his expression professionally blank. "Visitor for Evans," he calls out, voice flat with routine. I straighten my spine, feeling the familiar courtroom posture take over, shoulders back, chin level, face composed. The file folder in front of me contains pages I've already memorized: bank statements, forged documents, investor complaints. My fingers briefly tremble against the manila surface before I force them still. Tyler appears in the doorway, and for a moment, I barely recognize my brother. The orange jumpsuit hangs loose on his frame, making him appear smaller somehow. His usually styled hair falls limply across his forehead, and stubble darkens his jaw. But as he approaches, his trademark smirk slides into place, the same expression he wore when he was 16 and caught stealing Dad's car, when he dropped out of college, when he borrowed my credit card number for an online gambling site. He drops into the seat across from me, the plexiglass barrier between us scratched so thoroughly it distorts his features. His eyes, bloodshot but still carrying that familiar cockiness, meet mine. "So, big sister lawyer finally shows up?" he drawls, leaning back in his chair as if we're meeting for coffee rather than in a county jail. "Took you long enough." I don't respond immediately, instead opening the folder with deliberate slowness. The officer stands at attention near the wall, watching us with practiced indifference. "You look terrible," I finally say, voice neutral. Tyler snorts. "Not all of us get to sleep in our $1,000 sheets in our fancy Chicago condos." He leans forward, eyes narrowing. "You've got it all, haven't you? Career, money, a home that wasn't underwater last year? What more do you want?" The barb about my flooded condo lands exactly as intended. I feel heat rise in my cheeks but keep my expression impassive, the way I would facing an opposing counsel. "Let's talk about your situation," I say, tapping the folder. "Wire fraud, embezzlement, $2.5 million missing from investor accounts." I slide a document toward the glass, including $850,000 from the Hendersons' retirement fund. The Hendersons' mom and dad's neighbors for 20 years, the same people who brought casseroles when Mom had her hip surgery. Tyler's smirk falters. "It's a misunderstanding." "Is it?" I flip to another page. "Because these bank records show systematic transfers from your business accounts to offshore holdings." Another page turn. "And these show withdrawals coinciding with your trips to Vegas." His face darkens. "You've been talking to the prosecutor." "Someone had to." I meet his gaze directly. "Mom and Dad were too busy pledging their house as your property bond to actually understand what you've done." The smirk disappears entirely now, replaced by something harder. "You always were so perfect, weren't you? Never made a mistake. Never needed anything." I laugh, the sound sharp against the institutional hush. "That's what they told you? That I never needed anything?" "They gave you everything," he snaps. "Harvard Law School, connections." I worked 2 jobs through undergrad and took out $200,000 in student loans for Harvard. I cut him off. "The connections? Those were mine too. Ones I made while you were blowing through your 3rd business venture with their money." Tyler's eyes flicker with uncertainty for the first time. "They said." I know what they said. My voice remains level even as anger pulses beneath it. "They told you I was fine on my own while they wrote checks for your rent, your car, your bar. The same bar you used to run your little scheme." His gaze darts toward the guard before returning to me, voice dropping. "You have to help me, May. You know people. You can make this go away." I pull out a sheet of paper. "I've already talked to the prosecutor about a plea deal." His eyes widen, genuine surprise replacing the practiced charm. "You have?" 18 months federal time with good behavior. 3 years supervised release. 6 months house arrest after prison. Full restitution." Tyler blinks rapidly, processing. 18 months? I can't. It's that or risk 8 to 10 years at trial. I close the folder. "The evidence is overwhelming, Tyler. Even mom and dad have figured that out by now. Just... He leans forward, palms flat against the counter, his voice taking on the wheedling tone that always worked on our parents. Remember when we were kids? How I covered for you when you snuck out to that concert junior year? You owe me. The manipulation is so transparent it almost makes me laugh. I was covering for you. You were the one sneaking out. I stayed home and told mom and dad you were sleeping. His face falters. Well, what about when... Stop. I hold up my hand. This isn't about childhood favors. It's about $2.5 million you stole from people who trusted you, including family friends. Something shifts in his expression, the facade cracking further. He leans closer to the glass, voice dropping to a whisper. Mom and dad will lose everything because of me. For the first time, I glimpse something genuine in his eyes. Not calculation or charm, but actual fear. Not for himself, but for our parents. The revelation doesn't move me the way it might have once. You should have thought about that before you used their good name to lure investors. I was going to pay it all back. His voice catches. The market turned, and then, save it for your statement to the judge. I stand, gathering my papers. That's it? You're just leaving? Panic edges into his voice. I look down at him, seeing clearly the boy who was given everything and still wanted more. You're pathetic. His mouth opens in shock. No one, certainly not our parents, has ever spoken to him this way. May. Wait. I turn my back, nodding to the officer that I'm finished. May! Tyler calls after me, his voice bouncing off the concrete walls. You can't just walk away, we're family. The heavy security door swings shut behind me, cutting off his voice. I walk through the visitor processing area, past the metal detectors, out into the parking lot where September sunshine feels jarring after the institutional lighting. In my rental car, I grip the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turn white. Only then, in the privacy of tinted windows, do I allow the tears to come not for Tyler, but for the little girl who practiced piano for hours, hoping her parents would notice, for the teenager who won debate championships to empty chairs, for the law student who walked across the stage without family cheers. The tears aren't of sadness. They burn hot with something more potent, more clarifying. For the first time in my life, I've stopped trying to earn what should have been freely given, and it feels like freedom. I start the engine, wiping my eyes. Tyler made his choices. Now I'm finally making mine. The next day, the attic smells like forgotten promises. Dust motes dance in the thin beam of afternoon light as I rummage through cardboard boxes, each labeled in my mother's precise handwriting. I sneeze, then wipe my nose on the sleeve of my Chicago law firm sweatshirt. May Achievements, reads one faded box, shoved behind Christmas decorations and old tax returns. I drag it toward me, the cardboard bottom scraping against the rough wooden floor. Inside, my life lies discarded. My valedictorian medal tangled with ornament hooks. Academic awards folded and creased. The acceptance letter from Harvard Law, tucked beneath a broken string of tinsel. I hold up the medal, its ribbon frayed at the edges. Downstairs, Tyler's baseball trophies stand polished on custom shelves. May, are you up there? Mom's voice floats up the attic stairs. Lunch is ready. The lawyer you recommended is coming at 2. I'll be down in a minute, I call back, my voice steady, despite the anger curling in my stomach. She appears at the top of the stairs anyway, hovering like she has since I arrived. What are you doing with all that old stuff? I hold up my medal, just wondering why my valedictorian medal is stored with Christmas ornaments while Tyler's participation trophies have their own display case. Her face falls. We meant to put those things out. We just never got around to it. For 15 years? She doesn't answer, just fidgets with her wedding ring. Your father's on the phone with the financial advisor. He's trying to liquidate some investments for Tyler's defense fund. Of course he is. I'll be down soon, I say, turning back to the box. Mom lingers another moment before retreating downstairs. Under a stack of honor roll certificates, I find what I'm really looking for: the family financial records. Dad always kept meticulous documentation. I pull out folder after folder, arranging them chronologically on the dusty floor. The evidence spreads before me like a prosecutor's exhibit. College tuition, $175,000 for me, $230,000 for Tyler despite his dropping out twice. First car, $2,000 used Corolla for me, $21,000 new Jeep for Tyler. Housing assistance, $0 for me during my divorce and flood, $60,000 for Tyler's bar venture plus 3 separate rent bailouts. I close my eyes, taking a deep breath of musty attic air. Then, I gather the most damning documents and descend the stairs. Halfway down, I freeze at the sound of my parents' voices from the kitchen. She's been up there for hours. Mom whispers. Leave her be, Dad says. She's always been the strong one, she'll come around. But what if she doesn't help? Richard, we could lose everything. She will, she's never let us down. I lean against the wall, documents clutched to my chest. Never let them down? They've never even seen me. I step into the kitchen, placing the financial records on the table. I've scheduled someone to meet us at 6 today. Mom brightens. Another attorney? A family therapist, Dr. Sanderson. Dad's coffee cup clatters against the saucer. We don't need therapy, we need legal help. You'll get both. But therapy is non-negotiable. May, this is ridiculous. Your brother is facing prison. And you're facing the consequences of decades of favoritism. I tap the financial records. These are my terms. 6 o'clock arrives with Dr. Sanderson, a woman with silver-streaked hair and keen eyes. I arrange chairs in a circle in the living room, directly beneath the wall of Tyler's photographs. Thank you for meeting on such short notice, I say, offering her water. Your situation sounded urgent. She settles into her chair as my parents enter, faces tight with reluctance. Let's begin by discussing family patterns, Doctor. Sanderson says after introductions. Mom jumps in. We're a very close family. Or we were, until May moved to Chicago. I place the financial spreadsheet I created in the center of our circle. I've documented the financial support disparity between Tyler and me. What's this? Dad picks up the paper. Evidence. My voice remains professional, the same tone I use with difficult clients. Over the past 15 years, you've given Tyler approximately $437,000 in financial support. During the same period, I received $8,500. Mom's face flushes. That's not fair. You had scholarships. I worked 3 jobs during law school. I lived in a basement apartment with black mold. When my condo flooded 6 months ago, you said you couldn't help with $12,000 for temporary housing. 2 days later, you were on a chartered fishing boat with Tyler, celebrating his business venture with $60,000 of your money. Dad stares at the spreadsheet, his hands trembling slightly. This isn't just about money, I continue. It's about the piano recitals you missed, the graduations you left early, the achievements you dismissed. We gave Tyler more because he needed it. Mom bursts out, tears streaming down her face. The room grows very still. And what about what I needed? I ask quietly. Dad sets down the spreadsheet. For the first time in my life, he looks genuinely at a loss. Doctor. Sanderson leans forward. This is good. Hard, but good. Let's talk about what each of you needed that you didn't receive. As the session continues, I outline my conditions. I will recommend attorneys. I will consult on the case. I will not pay a dime toward Tyler's defense. And we continue therapy. I finish. All of us, including Tyler, once he can participate. After Dr. Sanderson leaves, I stand in the living room alone. From my briefcase, I remove my childhood piano competition trophy, the state championship my parents missed for Tyler's baseball game. With deliberate movements, I place it on the mantle, directly beside Tyler's photographs. It looks small there, but it's a start. On Thursday, Federal Courthouse looms like a stone monument to consequences. Reporters cluster at the entrance, cameras poised like predators sensing blood in the water. I adjust my charcoal suit jacket and straighten my spine, acutely aware of how my parents shuffle behind me, shrunken versions of themselves. Remember what we discussed? I murmur, not turning back to look at them. Let the attorney handle everything. Mom's hand flutters toward mine but doesn't quite make contact. May, please. There must be something else you could. No. The word comes out sharper than intended. I soften my tone. We've been over this. The criminal defense attorney is experienced with federal cases. Dad clears his throat. Your mother just meant... I know what she meant. I pause at the courthouse doors, watching the marshals lead a handcuffed figure up the stairs. Tyler. His orange jumpsuit has been replaced by an ill-fitting gray suit that hangs from his frame. The trademark smirk is gone, replaced by something unfamiliar on his face. Fear. A reporter thrusts a microphone toward us. Mr. and Mrs. Evans, How do you feel about your sons? I step between them. No comment at this time. Inside, the polished marble floors echo with our footsteps. The courtroom doors loom ahead, and my stomach tightens. For 33 years, I've lived in Tyler's shadow. Today, that shadow has substance and weight as heavy as the oak doors we push through. The courtroom smells of furniture, polish, and anxiety. Attorney James Whitfield rises from the defense table as we approach, his silver hair catching the fluorescent light. May. He extends his hand. Everything's in place for the plea agreement. Mom grabs my arm. Plea agreement? But what about a trial? You always said if someone is innocent. He's not innocent, Mom, I whisper, guiding her to the bench behind the defense table. That's why we're here. So, Tyler's eyes find mine as the marshals lead him to his seat. Something passes between us, a current of recognition, of finality. He spent his whole life believing himself the exception to every rule. Today, he learns otherwise. The bailiff calls the court to order. Judge Harmon enters, her black robes flowing with authority, and we rise. As we settle back into our seats, Mom leans forward. May, she whispers urgently, you could still talk to the judge. You're a respected attorney. Explain it was all a misunderstanding. That would be ethical misconduct, I whisper back. And it wouldn't work. Dad joins in. But your connections are not for sale. I meet his gaze. Not even for Tyler. Tyler turns, his eyes pleading from the defense table. I give a small headshake. The weight of his expectations, of my parents' desperate hope, presses against my chest. But I've come too far to cave now. The prosecutor stands, a compact woman whose plain appearance belies the steel in her voice. Your Honor, the United States has evidence proving beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant, Tyler Evans, systematically defrauded investors of approximately $2.5 million through wire fraud and false statements. She outlines the scheme in clinical detail, but it's when she calls the first victim that the oxygen seems to drain from the room. An elderly man with gnarled hands grips the witness stand. I invested my retirement savings because he was Richard Evans' son, he says, voice quavering. Said his father taught him everything about business ethics. Dad flinches beside me. Mom stifles a sob. Another victim follows, a middle-aged woman whose children's college funds vanished into Tyler's scheme. He showed me family photos. She testifies. Said I could trust the Evans name. I watch my parents' faces as understanding finally dawns. The golden son hasn't just tarnished himself, he's dragged their reputation through the mud. Used their good name as bait to lure trusting people into his trap. When Tyler stands before the judge, he seems smaller somehow. The court accepts your plea of guilty to 1 count of wire fraud. Judge Harmon states, in accordance with the plea agreement, I sentence you to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release, including 6 months of home detention and restitution payments to begin immediately upon release. The gavel strikes with finality. Tyler glances back at us, his expression a complex mixture of resentment and grudging respect when his eyes meet mine. I give him a slight nod. This outcome, 18 months, instead of the potential 10 or more years, represents the best possible scenario given the evidence. Outside the courthouse, the reporters descend like vultures. Microphones thrust toward us from all directions. Dad steps forward, clearing his throat. My son made a terrible mistake, but... I move beside him, cutting off what I know will be excuses. The Evans family acknowledges the harm done to the victims. I state clearly, Tyler is taking responsibility for his actions. The plea agreement includes full restitution to those affected by his crimes. Dad blinks at me, momentarily stunned by my intervention. Mom's hand finds mine, her fingers trembling. The simple gesture contains volumes. Acknowledgement, perhaps, that I am no longer the afterthought. No further questions, I add, turning away from the cameras. We walk down the courthouse steps, the autumn sun warm against our faces despite the chill in the air. For the first time in memory, my parents follow several steps behind me, their footsteps hesitant on the stone stairs. I don't look back. The weight on my shoulders feels different now. Not the burden of being overlooked, but the responsibility of being seen, of being, finally, heard. A year later, I arranged crimson chrysanthemums in a crystal vase, sunlight catching the diamond on my left hand. The kitchen smells of cinnamon and sage, a warmth that extends beyond temperature. Lucas moves behind me, his surgeon's hands confident as he bastes the turkey. Your parents should be here any minute, he says, pressing a kiss to my temple. Nervous? Surprisingly, no. I adjust a bloom that refuses to cooperate. It feels different now. The doorbell chimes through my Chicago home. My sanctuary now truly feels like one. I smooth my burgundy sweater and open the door to faces that have changed in subtle ways. Mom's hair shows more silver, Dad's shoulders less rigid. May, Mom says, offering a leather portfolio I recognize immediately. I found your old piano music in the attic. Thought you might want it back. We drove past your firm on the way in, Dad adds, handing Lucas a bottle of wine. That Johnson case you mentioned last month saw in the Tribune you won. Spectacular work. I accept both the music and compliment with equal surprise, guiding them into my living room where photographs mine, Lucas's, and yes, even a few of Tyler share equal space on floating shelves. Over appetizers, Mom mentions their recent move. The smaller place suits us better, less to maintain now that we're fully retired. Your father volunteers 3 days a week at the community college, she continues, pride evident. Financial literacy for first-generation college students. Someone should have taught us the same lessons years ago, Dad says with a self-deprecating smile. Might have made retirement more comfortable. When Lucas asks about Tyler, there's a momentary pause, but not the immediate family mobilization his name once triggered. His letters come regularly now. The last one had actual questions about your work, May, Dad says. He asked about your foundation idea? Mom adds, said he might have some insights to offer when he's out next spring. We moved to the dining table, laden with dishes Lucas and I prepared together. Crystal glasses catch the light from tapered candles. The contrast to last Thanksgiving spent alone in my office reviewing contracts couldn't be starker. Before we eat, Lucas suggests, maybe we could each share something we're grateful for this year? When my turn arrives, I let the silence linger, looking at these faces gathered around my table. Lucas, whose patience showed me what true partnership means. My parents, who finally see me. Even Tyler's absence feels like progress, a family dynamic rebalanced. I'm thankful for second chances, I say finally, and hard truths. Lucas squeezes my hand under the table, a private acknowledgement of the journey. Later, as Mom helps me pack leftovers, she pauses, eyes moist. I always thought you were strong, that you didn't need us the way Tyler did. Her voice catches. I was wrong about so many things. Kostiv. After dinner, I mention my plans for a legal foundation focused on family financial abuse cases. Instead of redirecting the conversation to Tyler's situation, Dad asks thoughtful questions about structure and funding. When we take a family photo for this year's holiday card, I notice how naturally we arrange ourselves, no longer orbiting around a golden sun, but standing as equals. Night falls early this deep in November. After my parents retire to the guest room and Lucas showers, I stand alone at my living room window. Snow begins to fall, delicate flakes illuminated by streetlights. My reflection in the glass shows the woman I've become, overlaid with shadows of who I once was, the afterthought daughter forever seeking validation. I place my palm against the cool glass, watching frost form around the edges of my fingertips. Some things break, I whisper to no one and everyone, so that stronger things can grow.